Hi, I'm Sean Keefe, a security engineer with Skybox Security, and I'll be demonstrating the Skybox Security Suite for you today. In this video demonstration, we will explore how Skybox can be used to help customers clean up and optimize their firewall rule sets. This process is useful to organizations that are just starting to be proactive about firewall management and is often a precursor to automated policy compliance. In addition, this same process can be used to prepare a legacy firewall rule set to be converted to a next-gen firewall platform. Often our customers have the goal of achieving policy compliance, but before they can get to that point, they need to deal with their messy rule sets. So that's what we're going to look at right now. We're going to start by looking at rule policies. A rule policy allows us to look at individual rules out of context specifically for how that rule is complying with the best practice of the least privilege principle. As you can see here under standard rule policies, we see things like looking for any and multiple fields, looking for rules that are just too overly permissive, that are allowing too many ports, too many IP destinations, known risky ports, that kind of thing. So let's take a look at the any in two fields check. So on the right-hand side, I can see the individual firewalls that are being checked against this policy. I see which ones have passed and which ones have failed. If I click on one of the ones that have failed, down at the bottom, I see the individual rules that caused that failure. I can drill into those rules if I'd like by opening them up in an ACL editor, kind of see where the rule is in context with the rest of the rules of the ACL. By looking at rule policies, administrators can find rules that are overly permissive and correct those before moving on to other steps. The next step we probably want to move to is looking at optimization and cleanup. For this, we'll look at our main firewall. Optimization and cleanup consists of two major components. The first component deals with overlapping rules. Overlapping rules are also broken into two sections, shadowed and redundant rules. Shadowed rules are rules where a broad rule is completely eclipsing a more narrowly written rule further on down the rule chain. Here's an example. In this example, Rule 13 is a nicely written rule, dev network going to app 0 and 1 for service FTP, but it's being eclipsed by rule number 4, higher up the rule chain, where the dev network is being allowed to go to any destination for any service. An administrator would want to understand the relationship between these rules and decide which rule should be kept and which rule should be deleted as part of the cleanup process. So now we've looked at rule policies and overlapping rules. The last step in cleanup is rule usage. Rule usage uses log data collected from the firewalls compared to the ACL of those firewalls to determine which rules are being used and unused, as well as rules that are being used but contain unused objects. So, of course, we can see rules that are unused. This would represent rules that can probably be deleted or disabled to help clean up the rule set. We can see rules that are used as well as their hit count. Customers often use this hit count to reorder the rules to make sure that the rules that are hit more often are further up the rule chain. Lastly, we have rules that contain unused objects. This is one of my favorite features. This allows us to see a rule, in this case, source for any going to DMZ for several services. By looking at rules that contain unused objects, I find rules that are being used but don't have all of the services in the rule being used. In this case, I can see that this rule is only passing email traffic. So an administrator would probably want to tighten up this rule by getting rid of the services that aren't being used. So this is the first step on the way to policy compliance. By going through these 3 different features, an administrator can tighten up their rule set and is ready to take on the next step of seeing how their rules compare to their security policy.